What up, nerds? It's your boy Payton coming at you with another episode of Script Tips. In this episode, we're going to continue from where we left off in the last episode. If you haven't seen that, go ahead, check it out. We talk about cookies, we learn about what they are, how to use them. In this episode, we're going to take what we learned and make something real. It's not going to be cool or whatever, but it's going to show you how to actually use the cookies in a real web application. So let's go ahead and get started. We're just going to jump straight into the code right here, no messing around. I just have an empty JavaScript project here. Well, I guess not even a JavaScript project, just, empty directory. And the first thing I'm going to do is make a new file similar to what we did last time. We're just going to call this script.js. This can be our JavaScript where we're going to make our cookies and stuff. And then I'm going to make another file called index.html. And this is just so we can, see some stuff on the screen. So I'm going to start out by importing our script. And we're going to have our source equals script.js. We're going to add a little bit of body for our markup here. We're just going to set style text align center so we can see it a little bit easier. And then what we're going to do in this application is just make a simple way for the browser to remember our name. So I'm going to make an h1 tag and just say your name is, and then below that is where we're going to keep our name. And this will be an h2 tag. I'm going to set an ID on this so we can access it inside of our JavaScript. And then I'm going to set a style on it, just add some different color. And I'm going to use the most swole color in the markup, Gainsborough. That's what's up. We're going to leave this empty because we're going to populate that via JavaScript. And now we're going to add a button. And this button is going to have an ID so we can access it again. And it's just going to be called set name button like this. And all it's going to say is set name. Pretty straightforward. The way we're going to set the name, if you're wondering, is through an alert box. So we don't need to have a form because I feel like that's just a little bit too much for this. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And like what we used last time, I'm going to use live server to run this application. If you don't have it, you can install it with npm install-g like this. But I'm not going to run that because I already have it. So once you install that, you just run live server and it will boot up your server. And I actually have it running over here in a different tab. We can see this is our markup, what it looks like. I'm just going to go ahead and open the inspector. Let's go ahead and start writing our JavaScript. So I'm going to go over to the script.js file. And the first thing we're going to do here is just make a way so we can see the name. So we can have something to show on the screen, see that things are working. So what I'm going to do is make a new function and call it set name text like this. And what this is going to do is grab the name element first. And I'm just using plain vanilla JavaScript here. If you guys are using some fancy framework for your application, you can definitely translate this over, but I want it to be framework agnostic so everybody can understand how to use cookies and understand the application. So the first thing we're going to do is make a new variable called name element. And this is just going to grab that h2 tag. And the way we're going to do it is document.getElementById name. Just some plain JavaScript. And the next thing we're going to do is make a name variable. And what this will do eventually is hold a cookie, but for now we're going to say test name because we don't have the cookie yet. We're going to have some logic here. If the name exists, what we're going to do is say name element dot inner HTML equals name. And this basically just fills that h2 tag. If there is no name, we're going to say some error message or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. All right, so now in order to run this, because it is just vanilla JavaScript, we need to run it when the window loads. So in order to do that, you just call this window onLoad function. Well, you set it to a function like this, and then inside of here we can say this dot set name text. And what this will do is just run the set name text function as soon as our web app loads. So if we save this and we go back to our web app, we can see that we have our name being populated in that h2 tag. Eventually we're going to fill this with the value from a cookie that we store, but for now we're just going to use this dummy text. All right, let's go ahead and make the function where we set the name cookie. We're going to call this one function set name cookie. It's going to take no arguments, and we are going to wire up to that set name button equals document.get element by ID, and we're going to look for our set name button. Now we need to set an on-click listener for this. Set name button.onClick equals some function. And the first thing we're going to do is prompt the user for a new name prompt, and we're going to pass in a message. Please enter your name. Now what we need to do is take this name that we get from the user and store it as a cookie. So in order to store it as a cookie, we go to the document object, document.cookie, and we can store it on here similar to what we did in the previous video where you just pass in a name value pair. And in this case, the name of our cookie is going to be name, and the value is going to be new name, or whatever we got from the user. And then we are going to set an expires on it because we want it to be a persistent cookie as opposed to just a session cookie. And we'll just use like some random date that we used in the last one, Thursday, April 20th, 2069, the best day of the world, 04/20, like that. What a great day to be alive. I hope I lived that day. And then we are going to set the name text. We got to call this function again in order to update our H2. So now if we save this and we go back to our website, we can see that if we click our set name button, oh, excuse me, I forgot to set the prompt down here. This will never happen unless we actually wire this up with this dot set name cookie like this. Otherwise, this function never gets ran, so the button doesn't ever get wired up with this on-click listener. So now if we go back and we click this, we can see that we can enter your name, Payton, and nothing comes up here. But if we go to our application tab, we can see that we now have a name cookie that expires on this special date. Unfortunately, there's a little bit more we need to do before we can just go ahead and set the name. If we did that here, instead of setting the name to test name, if we set it to document.cookie, we unfortunately will get some junk along with our name. So if I go here, we can see your name is name equals Payton. We don't really want that. And it's possible that there are other cookies on this besides name. Let's say for some reason on our website, we had some other cookie called, I don't know, let's just make a new cookie here called document.cookie, and we'll set it equal to test. Just test it out. We'll say annoying because it's an annoying cookie. Save that. If we go back to our website, we can see that document.cookie string actually has both of our cookies in it, not just the name. This acts like a string. So if we said document.cookie.name, this won't actually work because document.cookie essentially acts very similar to a string. It's a little bit more complex than that, but as far as reading it, it's exactly like a string. So this isn't an object. It doesn't have a .name property. So what we need to do is actually parse this out. All right, let's go ahead and make the function where we actually parse a cookie now. We're just going to call this one function parse cookie. Pretty self-explanatory. And in this, we're going to need to pass in the name of the cookie that we're looking for. In our case, we're looking for a cookie called name, but it could be something else. Maybe we're looking for a cookie called test. Maybe we're looking for a cookie called something totally different. We want to pass in the cookie name so we can figure out which cookie that we want to parse in return. So we're just going to take in the cookie name here. And now another thing that's important is that cookies can possibly contain URL encoded characters. So in order to get rid of that, we can make a new variable called decoded cookie. I set that equal decode URI component. And this just takes a string and it will remove any of those unnecessary characters from it. So we're going to pass in document.cookie. Now that we've decoded our cookie, we need to go ahead and loop through our cookie values. And actually first, before we do that, let's make a new variable that will hold the value that we're returning from the function. So if you remember, back in our website, we can see that we have our cookies here. We have 2 cookies, and they're both split by the semicolon. If we had any preceding cookies, they would also be split with the semicolon. So we need to split our cookie string on the semicolon and loop through those values. So in order to do that, we're going to call this decoded cookie. It's our variable, and we're going to split it on the semicolon. And this will just make an array of cookies. And now we're going to loop through this with a for each. And the value that we're going to read is the cookie. So now we need to remove any potential white space. If we go back to our cookies, we can see that if we split on the semicolon, we're going to get a little bit of white space here between the second cookie. So we're going to want to get rid of that. And in order to do that, we can just call cookie equals cookie.trim. Now, we need to check to see if this particular cookie that we're looking at inside of our loop contains the name of the cookie. So we can say if cookie.includes cookie name, and we're also going to look for the equal sign, because it's possible that the cookie maybe test contains the string name inside of it, and that's not what we want. We want to find the cookie that has name equals. And so if we do this, we're looking for name equals versus just name, which could possibly show up in other cookies. And if that is a thing, then what we're going to do is set the cookie value to cookie, and we're going to take a substring of this. We want to split it up, so we don't want to turn the whole thing. And we want to get rid of the name of the cookie. So this will remove the characters that amount to the name of the cookie that we're sending in. And then we're going to add 1 for the equal sign. And then we are going to split it until the end of the cookie. Cookie.length. So cookie is the current cookie that we're looking at. And then we're going to break from this loop. And then at the bottom here, we're just going to return our cookie value. The last step in order to see this is to come back down to the set name text function, and instead of passing our document.cookie in our name, we're going to pass parse cookie and the name of the cookie that we're looking for. In this case, we'll pass a name, and we save that. And if we go back to our browser, we can see that our name is now set there. Just to kind of show you the flexibility of this parse cookie function, we could say test. If we save this, we can see that annoying cookie is now our name. But we don't want that, we just want name. So this is essentially how you can use cookies in any sort of web application. If you're reading cookies, you have to be careful to make sure that you split your cookies on the semicolon, because the cookie string will return all the cookies on that domain. And you have to be wary of any sort of white space and the equal sign. So it's kind of a pain to split the cookies, but they're useful in order to keep track of user information on a session. One thing that I didn't try is closing the browser. And what I'm going to do here is just copy the URL. And if I hold Q to quit this, and I open up Chrome again, go back to localhost, we can see that my name persists because we have a cookie. So that's kind of cool. We have a way to remember something about the user when we come back to the website. So this is essentially how you deal with cookies in your web app. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and like it. Subscribe if you want. If you don't. I don't care. But I hope you have a good day, and I hope to see you next time.